I want to tell you that because of my potato PC and my capture card, the quality of this video is very bad. Please excuse that and still watch the video. Consider liking and subscribing if you enjoy it. Thank you. On how many tracks can you do a reverse lap? Okay, now that is sort of a boring question. That question has been answered like a lot of times already. It sort of seems boring in another video about this. In fact, there's a speedrun category about this, so if you're interested in that question, just go to speedrun.com, look it up over there. This is why today's question is a different one. On how many DLC tracks can you do a reverse lap? Now, that should make this far more interesting, because I don't think there's many videos about that. Let's get into it. First of all, the definition of a lap. I define a lap as a lap is completed once you drove over a spot where like to race is sign. Because if you say you have to drive over the same spot, that makes Mount Mario, Big Blue, and other tracks not actual tracks. So I hope you get my point when I say that, because of course you don't drive over the spot, over the starting point 3 times and bam, you won. But I think you really get my point here. Other things are, I'm playing in time trial mode, 200cc. 200cc makes some tracks easier or even possible, and time trial is just easier to play because like it doesn't think you're an absolute idiot, stopping you from going in reverse. And also, I'm playing with the Link, Wild Wiggler, Azure Rollers, and Paper Glider, just in case you wanted to know. Enjoy the video. Now, there currently are 16 DLC tracks, and I will do part 2 once part 4 of the waves are out. However, I had super fun doing that, and I really want to do it with 16 DLC tracks, because 48 is a bunch. And I will go through each and every single one, telling you whether they are possible or impossible. However, you should get 4 checked off the list as impossible immediately, because they all are boring and have the reason in common. At least 3 of them do. Paris Promenade is a track where Lakitu ends your fun before it's even begun. In fact, Lakitu stops you after you've driven like 30 feet. I don't know, well, I do have a theory why that happens, but we'll get to that later. You can't cross it with a mushroom either, and honestly, I think that's a little dumb, because I know it would not be possible, but still, it would be cool to try. Tokyo Blur features a similar problem. In fact, not even halfway through that rapid paved turn, Lakitu will stop you once more. Because, well, he just likes doing so. You can't cross that one with mushroom either, and also for this track, I have a theory why that happens, but again, we'll get to that later, and we'll just get to the next track that has the similar problem. Sydney Sprint. Lakitu just immediately stops you. That's not even like a distance you've driven. He stops you right away once more. And for this track, I have no idea why that happens. I have a theory, but if that theory is correct for Paris Promenade and Tokyo Blur, I don't know why it does that on Sydney Sprint. The other track I want to have out of the way is New York Minute, because New York Minute is, well, Lakitu doesn't stop you, and they gave me a glimpse of hope, but, well, you see the problem. It's a huge wall. Well, it's not a huge wall, but, it's a wall. Right? There's no way getting past it. I even tried going around it, maybe looking if there is like a crevasse we can get into or something. There is not. In fact, it's absolutely impossible getting past this wall, although it's just a double size of Link. But now we'll go through each track very slowly, explaining whether they're possible or impossible, and I think we should get started immediately. Toad Circuit is a super easy track. In fact, it's so easy that it ties for first place on being easy in reverse. I even managed to get a sub 30 second lap, and I think that is a very, very possible track. I did use 2 mushrooms in 1 lap, but that doesn't change anything. And yeah, there we go. 23 seconds. Choco Mountain is a little bit more difficult. Now the first half went super easy, You can even stun them those, although I didn't manage to do that. And then we get to a huge problem that makes this track impossible. Although the first half was super easy. This section. Now I tried jumping over there as you could see, but this gap is just way too big. I mean, look at that. And also, one question, why is there a billboard on the top of this mountain? Anyway, it's impossible, so I have to say so. Now, Coconut Mall I already knew was impossible, and I'll tell you why anyway, but I think you figured out as well. After doing 2 turns, we face the reason why this is impossible. It's a big wall, like, it's huge. There is nothing I can do about it, there is no way of climbing it, really. You just can't, it's absolutely impossible. I already knew that, but still. That wall is huge, there's no way of climbing. Shroom Ridge was a ton of fun to do. In fact, it's the second track that is possible to do a reverse lap on. Just pay attention not to hit the cars, because it's sort of dumb that like to hold up this sign the entire time and you not see the cars very well. Just try drive around them, not to hit any, and it should get pretty easy. And yeah, just don't hit the cars. It's not that hard as you can see. And eventually you will be able to do the lap. And I even did it in almost under 40 seconds. Quick note on Shroom Ridge, I just want to tell you that you can even take a shortcut, and don't even ask me how I got that, I am absolutely amazed. Yeah, now that doesn't have anything to do with the reverse lap, it just made me feel super cool. Try it yourself, it is actually very fun. Next is Sky Garden, and I have to say I'm getting sick of these glide ramps. I mean, do you see any way of getting up there? Do you? Because I didn't. I mean, look at that, take a look at how high this is. In fact, I was so frustrated, I still tried going for it for some reason, and this is what happened. Yeah. Wait. What exactly? So yeah, when going with enough speed over this cloud, Link will use it as a ramp, putting you far enough for Lacto to think you fell off the glider section, which I think is absolutely insane. However, the struggle wasn't done yet. In fact, there was a object holding me up for longer than 5 minutes, and I hadn't even given it a second thought about it when I started this challenge in Sky Garden. And this challenge is this mushroom. Now you see, there's absolutely no way of getting in there, or onto it. It's absolutely impossible. I tried jumping on it from various angles and speeds, and nothing worked, not even a mushroom. However then, my sister joined me, and watched me doing these attempts, and she told me to use a cloud as a booster, like I already had just before on the glider section, and funnily enough, this happened. Yeah. So, I'll tell you why that happens exactly, just a sec. I just want to show you that the rest of the track is absolutely ridiculous. The lap is super easy to make once you've done that, but there's only 3 curves left, so who would have thought that? Now, here's how the clouds work in Sky Garden. They are treated as off-road. All of them are treated as off-road. Now, some of them may have lagged zones, but they are all floor. You can use them even as ramps when they are angled like walls. And that is pretty insane. Now, because of that off-road treat, this is angled like a wall, but still floor. So it will launch you up into the sky. And that is why you can complete this track in reverse. Theoretically seen, it's even possible to not use a mushroom like I did just here, but that is absolutely ridiculous, and I have no idea why I did that, but it felt me feel cool. I don't think we need to talk about Ninja Hideaway too much, because, you see, there's a wall. It's not like you could do anything really, you just sort of you know, it's a wall. It's not like you can do anything. I even tried jumping away, and though it is funny how life reacted, we don't really get past it. And I tried jumping away on the other side, and that didn't work either, so yeah, it's absolutely impossible, and I'd already know that. So, yeah. The next contestant for first place is Mario Circuit 3, because Mario Circuit 3 is also ridiculously easy. I managed to get just under 30 seconds on this track, and yeah, it's super easy. And as I said, it tied for first place with Toad Circuit because they're both ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous. Now you see, you can just really even take off-road shortcuts, and yeah, I did that and still got a sub 30-second time. Just close, but yeah. Now this is where it gets interesting. Kalimari Desert. And this is where the theory and the rule change that I will make come into play. Now, you drive down Kalimari Desert absolutely normally, well, unless you're doing it in reverse, but that doesn't count, and then you realize that the track doesn't have lap 1 properties. In fact, this is lap 3, making you forcing out of the tunnel, not being able to pass by here, which is what lap 1 would do. So you have to turn around into that tunnel, and if you don't know, the beginning of the tunnel is where lap 2 starts, right here. So I decided that for this challenge, I need to drive over the exact same thing twice, and went on. Now, I thought that this was odd enough, but apparently because I drove over another finish line, the lap gets lap 2 properties. We are not at lap 3 properties because, as you saw, this ramp wasn't here anymore. Because this ramp only exists on lap 2. And now I was tempted. I wanted to complete the challenge, but what I also wanted to do is to see if the lap would change to lap 1 if we did another round of it. So I went through it again and went to see if the lap has changed once more. And as you can see, the ramp is gone. It's just not here anymore. And as you can see, we are not forced into the tunnel as well, meaning that lap 1 is possible. But I was thinking, what happens now? Will the game try to find the lap 0 file and crash? Will the game show us a lap 0 file? Will the game keep on lap 1? Or will it snap back to lap 3 and cycle back to lap 1? And I wanted to find that out, so I drove over and looked if the game crashed. And it did not. This means that it will definitely not search for lap 0 files and crash because it obviously didn't. So I thought it's probably staying on lap 1 since the lap looked exactly the same. However, then I noticed those blue arrows in the background, and surely enough, the lap had changed back to lap 3 properties. So I wanted to find out if my theory was perfectly true, that the lap would change back to lap 2 again as well. So I went for it, and yes, the ramp still exists. Now, here's where my theory comes into play. Now, usually on Paris Promenade, you drive into this direction, going towards the Arc de Triomphe. However, on the last lap, you will eventually pass the street that you will see when you go into reverse, and you see, funnily enough, this street you never drive through in lap 3. You just drive next to a red arrow pointing in another direction. And I think so Nintendo didn't want you to cheat, they made the lag zone a little thicker than it actually looks, making you not being able to cheese the entire track. And I also think the same happens on Tokyo Blur. Now you see, in Tokyo Blur you don't suddenly change direction, but in the last lap, you will start flying from a glider ramp that is way above. In fact, you can just see it now. It's that ramp coming from above. And when that 3 gets activated, Nintendo doesn't want you to fly from that ramp and get somewhere into out of bounds when flying right. So Nintendo put a Lakitu zone there to prevent you from flying any right, which makes perfect sense if you ask me. However, there is one thing I don't understand. In Sydney Sprint, you start in the direction we are currently facing, going towards the Opera House. However, when turning around, this is where lap 3 will lead you. And I don't think there should be a Lakitu zone in the middle of lap 3, because this is the perfect normal way for going in lap 3. And honestly, I think Nintendo wanted to prevent you from seeing what's happening, but that would sort of ruin my theory from Kalimari Desert. So, I don't actually know what's happening. However, let's move on to Waluigi's Pinball. Waluigi's Pinball is, well, let's just say it was fun going through the pinball machine without any pinballs, but surely enough, there had to be something ruining my day. And I am not talking about that pinball smacking into my face. No, I mean something like, I don't know, maybe a ramp or, oh, yeah. So, there's a huge gap you have to jump over, and sadly, there's absolutely no way of passing that thing. Usually, you jump from that ramp up there and land here where I stand, but that is sort of not happening right now. We need to get on top of that ramp, and that is not very possible. I tried using those walls as a hop thing or something. I even tried flying under the stage, or I don't know. It didn't work, so Waluigi's Pinball is impossible. Next is Snowland, and the first half of Snowland is fairly simple, maybe because it's just made out of 3 turns, but, you know, it was fairly simple, but then, I saw something, and honestly, I completely forgot that it exists. This ramp. Now, this looks absolutely unclimbable, and, well, it is. I hadn't realized it was that big, but there's absolutely nothing you can do. However, what you can do is clipping into it, giving you a nice little look from the inside, but other than that, there's absolutely nothing that you can do. And that's it. But before you say I hadn't tried anything, I tried jumping down from here, and I was unsuccessful. I tried jumping down from this thing here, and again, I had absolutely no thing, although I even managed to stunt, which is absolutely insane. I mean, I even tried landing on this wall here to then jump down, and I mean, that's just absolutely impossible, even if you have mushrooms. I mean, I think you see the problem, and that makes Snowland impossible, which is a pity. Next up is Mushroom Gorge, and this is where I am very lucky playing on 200cc because, well, you see, I have no idea how to clear this mushroom cave. However, with the help of our mushrooms that we have in the item slots, we can just sort of speed boost through them, making our journey significantly easier, and then we land on this thing. The green mushroom is a little helpful because it's a Lakitu save point, so we don't have to clear the entire cave at once, but this gap is just too big to jump over, even in 200cc. No idea what it happens, but the mushroom is just slightly higher than the other one, but it's absolutely impossible jumping over there, so I needed ideas. Now, my idea was using the mushroom as a speed boost, similar to what I did to Sky Garden, because not just the top part, but all of the mushroom counts as floor. So I aligned myself perfectly because not only I had to boost myself, I had to land on 2 mushrooms before I managed to get anywhere. So, over 15 minutes went to this track, and the best thing was this. That was the best try, and you see, that wasn't very good. However, after dozens and dozens and dozens of tries of aligning, and still falling because I used the mushroom just too late, this happened. So, you see, getting through the cave was possible, and I was very glad about that because I didn't know if it was possible or not, but then the mushroom came, and Jesus Christ, I'm so happy this is not a Sky Garden mushroom because I was really running out of ideas. Thanks, dear. Now, the rest is super simple to drive through. In fact, it's not even a challenge. However, I then wanted to do another lap and realized I was out of mushrooms. So I went for it anyways, and this is what happened. So yeah, it turns out you can even make that without the mushroom, but since I was out of mushrooms, this is the end of the second lap. But still, Mushroom Gorge is possible, and I couldn't believe it. Now, next is Sky High Sundae, and that is a little hard. I tried jumping off this thing, then land on those ice cubes, and from there on it was super hard to continue. In fact, landing on ice cube number 1 seemed absolutely impossible. I even tried mushroom gorging it, or I don't know, I guess it's actually sky gardening it. I don't know. I just tried to do the same thing I did with Mushroom Gorge. From the first ice cube, or basically the last ice cube, just an ice cube with this slope here, and damn, that took long. I mean, seriously, that was my first attempt here, and you see how it went. However, after 10 minutes or so of trying, this happened. And I managed to land on the first ice cube. However, from here on, I first was out of mushrooms, and although I don't have the clip of me getting here with the mushroom, I can tell you that it is absolutely impossible to get anywhere, even with mushrooms. I really tried jumping off at any angle, and it seemed absolutely impossible to me. And honestly, I don't want to spend more time on this track. However, if you have any ideas, please tell them. And that was the last track, so let's get to the summary. So, in total, 6 out of 16 tracks are possible. Toad Circuit, Shroom Ridge, Sky Garden, Mario Circuit 3, Calamari Desert, and Mushroom Gorge. Now, you may say that 6 out of 16 isn't a lot, but seen in percentage, 16 out of 48, which is for the normal tracks, is actually less. So, I'm counting this as a success, and as a huge one as well, because I had a ton of fun making this, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, it would help me out a lot. Also, huge thanks to 4L3XCH for doing the thumbnail and for Lenixa for helping me with both Sky Garden and Mushroom Gorge, although she only knows about Sky Garden. And thank you for watching.